What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a special episode of the Ango Show. My name is, of course, Ango, and today we are talking pro wrestling. Smackdown was a good episode tonight, but I thought it would be fun to have a friendly little debate with our good friend of the channel, Omer from Real Take Wrestling. Omer, welcome to the channel, brother. How are you doing tonight?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. It's good to have you back on the channel. It's probably been like, what, 8 to 10 months since I've had you last?
I think WrestleMania last year was the last time I was on. We had a fun time. Here we go. We had a fun time, and yeah, I'm excited, man, because I think you and I have a point of disagreement that I really can't wait to get into.
For sure. Well, I think that's what makes it fun. And I know, I did like a little feedback survey from the viewers, and one of the things that people told me was that they missed the slam. And I figured, I know me and you have kind of talked about the idea privately of doing a show. So we'll let the viewers decide. If you guys like what we're doing tonight, we definitely want to do a show of some sort talking about wrestling. And I figured, we do disagree on some stuff. So let's have that conversation. Let's talk about some wrestling. And let's do it tonight.
Hell yeah. We are men of the people, and we want to hear from you. Leave your chats, people.
I love it. Guys, we'll be pulling up comments, and of course, we'll be engaging with you throughout the night. If you guys want to support the channel, then there's a couple ways to do that. One, you could just simply start by liking this live stream. We're also doing a multi-stream too. So this is live on Twitter at AngoPW. Definitely check it out. I'm curious to see how the quality is because I did cave in and buy StreamYard. So I don't know exactly what to expect with this, but nonetheless, we are on Twitter. Liking this video definitely helps out. If you guys want to leave a super chat, it guarantees that your question or your opinion is read on the stream, on the show. And then, of course, you can actually also donate on the website if maybe for some reason super chats don't work or whatever the case may be. But nonetheless, we do have also some chat commands. We got the bot working in the chat. So, of course, if you guys want to join Discord or anything like that, you can definitely do so. But, Omer, you said something to me, and it was interesting, and I want to talk about it. So let's talk about it, my friend. What did you say in the chat before the stream started?
I'm gonna actually pull up the exact chat I sent, so it's not lost of communication. But okay, well, I can't find it. But the gist of it was, Sami Zayn should win the Universal title from Roman Reigns, and you cannot change my mind about it. And
why is that?
I'll tell you right now. You know why? Because it is. Here's the thing, and I spoke about this like earlier on this week. I said sometimes pro wrestling is just so beautiful. It's so great because you can just, instead of like hypothesizing about, what's going to happen next. And like what makes sense, what's the right thing to do as far as, long-term booking, blah, blah, blah. Because we as fans get, caught up in that all the time, man. Sometimes you just go along for the ride and you're like enjoying it. And one thing I can honestly say about this whole Bloodline thing is I have not enjoyed a WWE storyline more ever in my entire life. Granted, that's like only like 20 and some change years, but I haven't enjoyed a storyline watching wrestling my entire life than I have this one. And the thing about it that is so different for me is every step of the way. Like WWE's made a bad habit sometimes of taking really good storylines and like messing up every step of the way. Like the Daniel Bryan storyline is probably the biggest example of it in recent memory. But man, this Bloodline thing, like they have not messed it up. And this is like the first time in a long time that WWE, in my opinion, has not messed up a great thing they've had going for them. And for me, it's just one of those things where, yeah, I know Cody's the guy and I know like it's going to be his moment at Mania. But as far as what should happen, you heard that crowd, Ango. You heard that crowd at Royal Rumble. You've been hearing the crowd just as I have, just as everyone else in the chat has. We've been hearing the same thing. Like Cody's time will come, but it's Sami Zayn's time right now. And that's, to steal a phrase from Cody Rhodes, undeniable. And again, we can disagree. I'm sure there's plenty of people in the chat who disagree. So leave your disagreements in the chat. But remember, it's pro wrestling. So give me some slack.
Yeah, no, I mean, so to read your comment word for word, because I copied and
Please do.
pasted it into my notes.
Oh, bad.
Omer said Sammy should be the one to beat Roman, and nothing can change my mind.
Damn right.
And it's a very, very interesting take. I'm not going to lie to you. And I'm going to be honest with you. I do agree with you. You mentioned it. You were spot on. You specifically, you mentioned tonight. And I'm not going to lie to you. Up until tonight, I would have hardcore disagreed with you 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%, I would have said Sammy's not the guy. Now, in terms of storyline, and I did this, I talked about this on a stream before. In terms of storyline, it never really made sense for Sami Zayn to go after Roman's championship belt. Just like when you look at 2 years ago, the Bloodline was always about Jey Uso getting the championship belt, and then he decided to fall in line with the Bloodline. With that being said, tonight, Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns, the crowd was electric. And I got to be honest with you. I am warmed up to the idea of Sammy.
There we go. We're winning him over, guys.
Yes, you guys, you're winning me over. But here's the thing. And I love Cody Rhodes. I really love Cody Rhodes. And I think Cody Rhodes, in terms of who can carry the company, I think Cody Rhodes ideally makes the most sense, to be honest. But here's the thing. And this is the little plot twist that I don't think a lot of people would expect me to start talking about. I don't think Cody Rhodes should be the guy to beat Roman Reigns either. Nor do I think Sami Zayn should be the guy to beat Cody Rhodes or to beat Roman Reigns. I want to make this very clear. The crowd was absolutely electric for Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn tonight. The crowd, I don't want to say hijacked the show, but when Romans was cutting that promo, we heard those Sammy chants. But what I also want to say, and this is super incredibly important because I think it's crazy that I'm saying Cody shouldn't beat Roman Reigns. But there's a fear that I have, and there's a reason why, even though I'm warmed up to the idea of Sammy beating Roman, the reason why I don't think it should happen is because I don't think after the storytelling will be as good. The chase is better than what will happen afterwards. And that would be my big fear with Sammy winning. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm starting to feel that way with Cody. But yeah. I do have an idea.
Oh, great.
And I can't wait to see the response here. But imagine this. And it's two slots or two different parts to this. Just imagine this. Sami Zayn goes to Montreal. The level of heat that Roman Reigns will get for decimating Sami Zayn with Jey Uso's help will be very massive. And that right there would set up the need for Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn to team up against the Usos at WrestleMania. Because nobody knows what's happening to Jey Uso. He wasn't on TV tonight. That right there is what I believe. For sure, that right there is what I believe would make the most sense. Jey Uso joins the Bloodline again. He takes out Sammy. That sets up the match. That's the first scenario. Also, my second scenario that I want to point out is that I think it's really important that Cody actually loses at WrestleMania because Cody just came back from injury. It looks like he's been hot-shotted to the top. And how much more important of storytelling would we see? What would be the importance of the storytelling that we see when Cody loses? He's finally given that big opportunity and he loses it.
Fully agree with you there.
Then that chase becomes something big. Yep. So the thing is, Sammy should be the one to beat Roman in terms of crowd reaction. But I don't think Sammy or Cody should beat Roman Reigns at all. Because of the reason that after the fact, I think there is far better storytelling that can happen for Cody. And I think there is way more benefits to having Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens go after the tag titles. And this way, we don't have to have the concern like Kofi Kingston when he wins the WWE Championship, and then there's really no plans afterwards. The chase is always great, but after the chase, that's the issue.
Right. And I look, what you said is 100% true, but I think it might be a bit of a difference in philosophy in the way we're looking at these things. Because I understand what you're saying. Is you're saying like after Sammy wins, what's next? And that's the big question whenever one of these big moments happens, right? Like what's next with Kofi? What's next with Bryan? What's next with Hangman Page and AEW, right? Like that was always a thing. But for me, the way I'm viewing this, right, is the culmination, right? Because sometimes in wrestling, you're right. You need the continuous storytelling, but sometimes you need that finality of a story, especially one like the Bloodline, right? You need that finality. And if there was ever a moment, for an appropriate moment, I should say, for this type of finality, it would be right now. Like the you have the hottest people in professional wrestling right now, in the hottest story in professional wrestling in decades. Yes, I said decades. And it just, again, I understand what you're saying. Like, sure, Sami Zayn might be jobbing out or like losing to Kane or winning against Kane in Extreme Rules, because that's what everyone does whenever they win a big title. Whenever the underdog wins, they always have him wrestle Kane. But I don't think Mayor Kane is going to be doing anything like that. But the point is, I think the finality that we would get, that moment means more than any story you could tell afterwards, right? Because at that point, the story's going to be done anyway. Like, there's not much else you can tell with Sami Zayn in the Bloodline. Now, there's a whole bunch of stuff you could do with Jey Uso in the Bloodline that we can get into if you want. But for me, I think that finality is just worth way more as an all-time wrestling moment, as a culmination of what we've all been watching for months and months and years with Roman Reigns. I just think that it means more. And speaking to your Cody point, I agree with you. I think in Cody's case, he's already a made guy, right? Like it's one of those things, like he's already a made guy, and we want to talk about building new stars. We want to talk about making people in pro wrestling. Sami Zayn will be made like forever. Like, and that's something you couldn't take away from him. And Cody's story, I think, only gets better if he loses to Reigns. I think you and I actually talked about this on a stream last year at WrestleMania, like briefly, where we talked about what's Cody going to do, because at the time Cody hadn't debuted yet, obviously. But we were talking, well, what's Cody going to do? Like, is he going to face Roman Reigns at SummerSlam or whatever? And I think like we were all in the same wavelength, where it was like Cody shouldn't win his first time challenging for the title, because that like story of him saying like, I want to do it for my dad, I want to do that, only means more if he fails the first time and then redeems himself later on. Like that moment is only going to mean more down the line. So you can save that. But yeah, I mean, I just, again, I think it's a difference in perspective. Like, I totally get where you're coming from. I just disagree. It has to be Sammy. Like, for me.
I think if the crowd keeps popping like they did tonight, I think WWE will be forced to. And I do think to a certain extent, and this is just my opinion, I think a lot of people look at Triple H as he is this god as a booker. And I don't agree with that. I think he has incredibly turned around the WWE, but there are certain things I've looked at with Triple H and the way that he books the show. It seems like he is dead set on his plans. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, because truth be told, and this is where it gets really interesting, but this is where I feel like Cody's in trouble, because the crowd doesn't want to turn on Cody Rhodes. Like right now, if WWE makes it very clear that Sami Zayn is not going to WrestleMania, there is nothing that's going to change that. People will get behind Cody. But if WWE is showing any sort of leeway in their booking that potentially Sami Zayn could be in the main event of WrestleMania, whether it's night 1 or night 2, if they even remotely tease that and WWE doesn't deliver that, you're going to see fans turn on Cody Rhodes. Now, this is where things get interesting, though, too, because the crowd reaction tonight was like, it's undeniable. Just like it's undeniable with Cody, to be honest. It's not like Cody doesn't get a massive pop. He comes out, he gets a massive pop, he cuts the promo, people love it. This is a situation where WWE, I think for the first time, because people do bring up the Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan, what was it, 2014 or whatever. Like, the reason why WWE changed that was because WWE booked somebody that people didn't want. This is the first time in a very long time where I think fans genuinely just want both. And it makes that decision very hard for Triple H. Now, in theory, when you go off of storytelling, simply storytelling, not fan favorites, not reactions or anything like that, technically speaking, Jey Uso should be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns. Technically speaking, based on how the bloodline started and how everything happened, that right there is a reason for why Jey Uso should be it's the reason why he should technically dethrone Roman Reigns. Now, again, that's just based off storytelling. However, I think Triple H is dead set on the Usos versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And if it actually leads to Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens getting that big moment at WrestleMania, I'm not saying it's the same as winning the world championship.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty massive thing because the Usos just had it's like a 500 and something day reign.
It's a record-breaking reign, yeah.
For sure. It's historical, and I think a lot of credit, and I do agree with you. You kind of started it off earlier. Like, this is my favorite storyline of all time. And I know some people disagree with that. And I've seen some people tell me in the past, like, you're stupid or, oh, you're really showing your age or whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, I've never cared.
Wait, Ango, do you like something in pro wrestling? How dare you? I only watch it to make fun of it.
Dude, it's unfortunate, but this is the reality we live in. You have to listen to what the Twitter people say. If you don't agree with Twitter, dude, you're out of here. You can't have a career in this industry, But it's the thing is, though, like, realistically, like, I've never been more captivated by every small detail and nuance. And I feel like Roman Reigns is a big part of that. And I really think, and it's so cool too, because I used to watch indie wrestling and I used to watch ROH, and I remember watching El Generico. And when he came to WWE as Sami Zayn, I won't lie to you. Like, I can admit this. I did not think I thought he was great. I thought he was talented. I thought this guy's going to be a big star. To me, being a big star doesn't mean being world champion. But again, after tonight, I could see it.
Here's the thing. What complicates all of this is if this story was happening with someone, like, if Sami was in the story with someone who wasn't the undisputed champion, we wouldn't be having a conversation about whether or not Sami, like, needs the title, right? We'd be talking about Sami needs to beat this guy. The fact that he's been in this storyline with the guy who's held the belt for 600, 700, whatever days, right? Like, that's what, like, and because that dude has the title, we're all thinking, like, the ultimate underdog story here would be Sami Zayn fighting off the entire bloodline and winning the title. Like, and in that way, I guess it may be like raises those expectations for fans like me and fans like other people out there. But I just, again, it's just one of those things where, like, unless your end game here is Jey Uso, which that would be, I think, in my opinion, just as good as a story.
Yeah. Like,
that's a good way to finish out the story. But if it's not Jey Uso, and if it's actually Cody, you want to be the guy, I think that it is. And if it's at Mania, I think it's a mistake, even like we take the Sami stuff out of it. I think it's still a mistake. But, and not to say Cody doesn't deserve the title or Cody, like, shouldn't win the title. He should. Like, that was his mission statement. It's just his mission statement should be elongated a little bit.
And to that point, I think that's why it's so important that if Cody actually lost at WrestleMania, there's way more storytelling that people will actually enjoy, because now you get to see Cody Rhodes really chase after the title. I mean, his dad couldn't win the belt. Now he finally gets that opportunity, couldn't win the belt. That's amazing. That's good storytelling.
Ango, the image of a post-WrestleMania image of Cody Rhodes alone in the ring after Roman Reigns has had his little celebration and walked down the ramp. Just no music, just looking off, crying into the crowd, being corny as Cody Rhodes that we all love. We all love corny Cody. But, like, that image, I'm like, come on. It's like, sometimes, like, Cody has, like, the best, like, boo-boo face in the business, like the best puppy dog face in the business. It's just the best thing. And I'm like, you gotta give me that once. Like that has to be, like, we're gonna have that visual. We should have that visual so that, like, it can be played back to Cody. And then, like, when he actually goes on the run where he's going to win the belt, it means more. And again, I think we're kind of talking in circles at this point. I do want to talk about the Jey Uso thing real quick. I don't know if you got to get to chat or two before we do that. But
we do have some super chats, but go ahead and bring up the Jey Uso thing, and then we'll get to those.
So I'm not gonna go through the whole thing, but this guy on Twitter, Hollywood J Black, he laid out like this entire thread of the entire like Jey Uso Roman Reigns storyline. And when you like read it, I'm not gonna read it or do any of that because it's like a million tweets long. But the general gist of it was the reason Jey Uso didn't attack Sami Zayn at Royal Rumble was because when he saw Sami Zayn had the guts to stand up to Roman, he looked back and he saw himself back in Hell in a Cell 2021 or 2020, whenever it was, in that when Jey Uso like had to choose between his brother or attacking Roman Reigns, and instead he took like the easy way out, and it was just. First of all, when I read that thread, big shout out to Hollywood J Black. Yeah. It was chef's kiss. Like that was like best thing I've written. It solidified the Bloodline being the best like storyline for me. But but like thinking about it like that way, and like then it really like puts things into perspective. I'm like, Jey Uso is the main character in this story, and like that to me would be the only other justifiable way to end all of this. Right? Yeah, it would be with. I don't know how you get there, and that's the part where I'm like, I'd be along for the ride. But again, if it's Cody, I'm gonna be happy for him. I'm a huge Cody Rhodes fan. I never started booing him in AEW, even though I would have liked to have seen heel Cody, but that's a story for another day. But either way, it's got to be, for me, it's Sami number 1, and if you're gonna do it, Jey number 2.
Yeah, I think. I mean, just purely off storyline. And that Twitter thread was great. And I mean, for weeks, I had been talking about literally the last 2 years of Jey Uso. And that's why it was such an intriguing storyline, because it was nice to see that Jimmy Uso, the one who had Sami's back the entire time, this is the same guy who fell in line very quickly with the Bloodline. So it was really cool to see a thread basically type out everything that I had verbally like been talking about. But I think too, just off crowd reaction right now, I feel like any one of those three can get a massive pop for beating Roman Reigns. But I also do believe, and this is where things get a little bit crazy, and I think this is where fans might, I think with good, intricate storytelling like we've seen for the last 2 years with the Bloodline, I'm okay with Triple H booking Roman Reigns as champion until WrestleMania 40. And I know that sounds crazy, but I feel like at this stage of the game, there is so much great storytelling. And you mentioned the visual of Cody Rhodes in the ring. And I also have to point out his promo on Monday Night Raw the night after, crying and being vulnerable and all of these different things. These are the elements that I think would be so much more advantageous to WWE by having Cody Rhodes lose. But also at the same time, too, if you're going to have Cody Rhodes lose, I feel like you need to have Sami Zayn lose. And again, we're kind of talking in circles, but I do feel like Sami Zayn, Cody, Jey Uso, any one of those three can be very, very legitimate champions. And I think you can't go wrong. That's one thing I do want to point out. I think everybody has like a really good theory. And it's not that I necessarily disagree with you. It's just, I feel like the storytelling after the fact could be so much better that to eventually it will be a bigger deal. But I don't think people will genuinely be unsatisfied if Roman Reigns walks away as champion.
And you know what the best part about what you just said was, like, the fact that we can look at all these scenarios and be like, well, I'd like it if this happened, and I'd like it if this happened, and I'd like it. The fact that we can talk about so many scenarios instead of just having it be one thing, a definitive thing of like, I will only like this story if it ends in this way, right? Yeah. Like the fact that like there's so many possibilities and like they're all like relatively good options. And that's the best part about this. Like there's very few ways to mess it up, which if Vince McMahon was still in power, we'd probably find a way. But
of course,
but I have enough faith in Triple H to at least not do something that would totally destroy all of this. But either way, I'm excited, man. I can't wait. I just cannot wait for that Elimination Chamber match. The atmosphere is going to be epic. Like it's Sami's hometown. It's his first big like title match. Like since I think NXT back with Neville back in NXT. So like I'm hyped for it. I've always been an El Generico fan. Like Sami Zayn personally to me, like as a Muslim American means a lot. So like, you know, I just like that's my guy. That's my guy. That's the other thing that like I kind of have been around. That's just my guy. So I
For
want to see
sure.
him win.
One thing that I did want to point out too is because you mentioned being a Muslim American, right? And one thing that was always cool to see with Sami Zayn, a lot of people don't know about Sami for Syria. He runs his own little organization where he is literally helping a lot of people out in Syria. And I actually saw that interview. I think he was doing it with Ariel Hawani, and he was just like, yeah, he's like, I don't look like Cody Rhodes or John Cena or so-and-so. Can I carry the championship belt for 6 months and do the late night talk shows? Yeah, but can I be the face of the WWE? He doesn't think he can. He doesn't think he has what Triple H or Vince McMahon would look for. And I just want to publicly say this. I actually disagree with that. Because of the good that he does outside of WWE, just like when John Cena is doing Make-A-Wish, I don't want to discredit Sami and what he does because a lot of people don't know that he does it. And anytime that he talks about it, it seems like he only talks about it if he's trying to gain support for his cause. So this is not a situation where Sami is bragging about doing good things. He's literally using his platform to do positive outreach. That to me is somebody who could be the face of WWE. And I do want to point that out. Whether he wins or loses at WrestleMania, I definitely disagreed with what Sami Zayn said in that interview. And I don't feel like he gets the credit that he deserves for that. And again, this isn't somebody asking for clout because he's doing good. But it is something that I absolutely love to see from him. And I just wanted to kind of put that out there. We did get a super chat, so I want to answer a few of these super chats. Albert Ponce dropped one for $5. He says, I like Sami, but people need to remember where he's placed in the food chain, where he was placed in the food chain before he joined the Bloodline feud. WWE has booked itself in a corner. Omer, do you agree with that? Do you think WWE booked themselves in a corner?
Well, obviously, yes. They've been booking themselves in a corner for the past like 20 years. But the beautiful part of pro wrestling, like, you can make that stuff work. You can make the fact that Sami Zayn was fledgling before he joined the Bloodline into a good story that propels him into being a better wrestler, a better character, and a better overall whatever you want to call it. Like, it's made him better. Like, we've seen Sami Zayn do some of the best work of his career over the past year, right?
Yeah.
And like, again, like, people want to talk about like where, okay, like, and I'm not comparing Sami Zayn to Steve Austin when I say this, right? But what was Stone Cold doing before he was Stone Cold Steve Austin? What was what was The Rock doing before he was The Rock? What was I understand that like it's easy for us who've been watching and like seeing some of our favorite stars like be booked like crap, and then like like it's weird to see them like kind of propel. But like Sammy's the one guy, like if you want to point to like this whole scenario, Sammy's the one guy who you can argue like the booking was bad for so long, but this story has built him up like slowly in the best way, like I said, perfectly, like to the top. Like, he's the most over guy and he deserves it, and he's put in the work. He's like, again, that like when he had that like fire, when he got fired up tonight, like that moment tonight, I was like, ooh, like it was infectious. And that doesn't happen a lot in storyline. I get what you're saying, Albert. Like it makes sense. I just think like you can overcome that, and I think he has.
I do agree. Again, like I said, the crowd reaction says everything. But one thing I do want to point out too, with WWE booking itself in a corner, right? I don't know if I agree with that. Typically they do. But again, this is one of those things where if they book themselves out of the corner, I feel like they would have a very hard time getting around it. And the cool thing is, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, I think WWE is just kind of in a situation where they can't really make a wrong choice. They will make the wrong choice if it gets to the point where the crowd starts booing Cody Rhodes and just completely hijacks the show with Sami Zayn chants. I don't think the crowd is going to do that, though, because Cody Rhodes is still getting massive pops. If it gets to that point, then yes, I would say WWE has booked itself in a corner, and they definitely have to call an audible. But this is why I said Cody Rhodes could potentially be in trouble, right? Because WWE has to carefully craft every single decision now. If Cody Rhodes is for sure going to WrestleMania, wrestling Roman Reigns, and there is no match for Sami and Roman at WrestleMania, do not tease it one bit. Make it very clear that they're going after the tag titles. And then, whatever happens after WrestleMania, if you want to call an audible, I think you can do that if you want. to please the fans, right? But I just think this is where it gets really interesting because they're going to be in Montreal, and Roman Reigns will get the most massive heat ever. And that right there is going to be the game changer. That will be what determines, in my opinion, whether or not Cody Rhodes gets booed or cheered. But as of right now, they still love Cody, and rightfully so. Cody, Sami Zayn. I mean, even when they were chanting for Jey Uso tonight, to be honest, the fact this guy's not there and they're chanting for him, and he's a tag team wrestler. And by the way, it's really different. It's really different compared to other tag teams because him and his brother are twins. So they're twins. To see one of them potentially become a singles champion, you know what I mean? It's just such an interesting situation.
They don't call him main event Jey Uso for nothing, all right?
I agree. Thank you, Albert, for the super chat. We got another one from Brian Medina. He says Cody turns and brings the club, Gallows, Anderson, AJ, Cody. You know, Omer, I have a lot of interesting opinions on this, but I do want to hear your thoughts on this idea.
Okay. So that sounds like a fun idea. And I believe, like, for me, at his best when he was doing like the trolley like heel stuff back on the Indies, Ring of Honor. Like, he did this thing on the bump like this week. I don't know if you guys saw it, where he was like pointing at like signs. He was pointing at the WrestleMania signs. He pointing at like the exit signs, and it was like, it just reminded me of like peak like like BTE
yes,
Cody. And I was like, yeah, this is why I like this guy. Like, this is what made me like truly like love Cody Rhodes as a wrestler. I would like, that'd be cool. I just think though, like when Cody laid out his mission statement, right? He said, I need to be champion to like for my dad. And that's what it's always been about for Cody, right? It's been about making Dusty proud. And he laid that out perfectly in his promo when he debuted in WWE. I think to deviate from that, like before he wins the title.
Yeah.
If he wins the title and he has like a month where he's like, you know, happy-go-lucky Captain America Homelander Cody, great. But then, like, if you want to do this and have him be like, you know, trolley heel Cody, which he's more than capable of, but I don't know if he actually ever wants to do again, then have at it. I just don't think it's in the cards.
So whether this happens or not, obviously remains to be seen. It remains to be unseen, but here's one thing I do want to point out, and I think this would be a very, very legitimate idea. So I'm gonna go full screen for a second, and I want to bring this up because I think this is very legit, right? Imagine Cody Rhodes literally does this, right? Like, imagine like this actually happens. Cody Rhodes goes to WrestleMania. He loses to Roman Reigns. He shows up the next night on Raw. He's joined by AJ Styles in the club. Okay? Imagine this actually happens. Cody Rhodes officially turns heel. What would be the reaction to Cody Rhodes turning heel, reforming the Bullet Club in WWE, and then eventually becomes WWE champion when he actually does it the wrong way? He wanted to make Dusty proud so bad. He tried it as a baby face. It didn't work. He had to become a heel. He had to cheat with the Bullet Club or the club or whatever. Imagine that scenario and imagine the type of reaction that Cody Rhodes would get, because Cody Rhodes is always so emotional in his promos and he's been so adamant about winning winning the gold, winning the big one. Imagine the type of heat he would have if he chose to go the route of cheating. And, you know, it's one of those things with Brian's super chat. It would be interesting. It would be... It would make WWE Raw have their number one top heel. Undoubtedly. I don't think there would be another person that could replace that. And I think that is something that definitely intrigues me, to be honest. I think this idea where, again, what happens after WrestleMania, if he loses, it could result in some good storytelling. And Omer, I'm going to ask you, dude, because this is a really interesting point. Jay White is leaning between WWE and AEW. I mean, imagine you have... And we'll throw Finn Balor in the mix. Imagine Finn Balor, the club.
It's crazy
Cody,
how like we've
AJ.
gotten to the point where both AEW and WWE can both have simultaneous like Bullet Club Civil War storylines going on if they wanted to. I mean, like what you laid out was so cool, and like I'd love to see, honestly, like as a fan, I'd love to see it. Like anything involving like Bullet Club or like the matches between the leaders, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I just am not getting my hopes up about it because like I just don't think Cody wants it. And again, I could be wrong. I'm not friends with Cody Rhodes.
I want to
Like,
point something out to you, though. I have
please
to
do.
point this out to you.
Point it.
Cody Rhodes is very, very meticulous in everything that he says in his interviews. He's a very smart man.
Sure.
When you look at his AEW booking, people had a hard time deciphering, is he a heel or is he a babyface? Because he was kind of leaning into both. And that was always kind of the thing about Cody's gimmick that was super cool in AEW that I absolutely loved. The fans turned on him and he kind of leaned into it in a way that made it look like he knows that they hate him. So he acts this way to keep getting them to boo him. Because at the end of the day, he says it multiple times. It's about getting people to cheer or to boo. That's all that matters. And I'm starting to think that maybe, and it could all be coincidental, but maybe, just maybe, Cody Rhodes has found himself in a situation where realistically, he always said he won't turn heel, but that was always part of the heel persona. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it's not like he goes on stage and says, I'm a bad guy now. That's not what happens, right? He just kind of changes his behaviors and those patterns, and maybe he uses those heel tactics to become a world champion. But in his eyes, he's still a good guy because he still wins the world championship at some point. I'm just saying there could be some opportunities there. And of course, that's the beauty of fantasy booking. It's really to play with ideas. But as soon as I saw Brian's super chat, I just thought, wow, you really could reform the Bullet Club. And if you really, really, really want to have fun with it, 2023 Survivor Series War Games, the Bloodline versus the Club.
Yeah.
You have months and months of storytelling. You have Gallows and Anderson who could potentially take the belts off the Usos, because for all we know, Sammy, right? This could be another thing too, not to be so long-winded with this, but Sammy and Owens take SmackDown tag titles. Usos still carry Raw tag titles. Gallows and Anderson can now do that.
Yeah. I again, nothing you're saying is wrong, right? And again, beautiful part of pro wrestling is multiple things can be right at once. I just don't see that happening because I mean, again, it might just be me. I just see like when Cody laid out his mission statement, that was I'm gonna win this as the good guy and do it for my dad. All American as apple pie. Cody Rhodes doing his thing, right?
Yeah.
But if that were to happen, I mean, I'd be the first one like in line for whatever T-shirt that they be selling. Like that'd be dope. That'd be dope.
Yeah. So I do want to point this out because Buddy Love 90 dropped a $1.99 super chat, and he says, will Cody have to turn heel or go back to AEW? Now, I think between me and you, I think we could both agree that Cody never goes back to AEW. Is that something we kind of agree on?
I think I could see him going back like for one last run. Like again, whenever
he's a WWE lifer.
No, I don't. And one thing that the past few years in wrestling have taught me, Ango, is to never say never ever again. So, I mean, I've always thought I think that with Cody, it's the same reason he went back to WWE, right? It was this feeling of like this unfinished business and it's time to leave the territory.
Yeah.
And Cody's like got that kind of mentality, right? I think it could very easily in like 5 years or whenever his contract's up, swing back around and he could like do one final run in AEW if he wanted to. And again, this is not me saying, oh, I'm not predicting that it's happening. So please don't yell at me in the chats. But I could see that happening. I think it's possible.
Yeah. Very interesting. A lot of love in the chat, by the way. A lot of people seem to be enjoying this special episode of the English show.
That's a first for me. People usually hate my takes.
No, man. The thing is, whether people love it or hate it, I think the cool thing about the Ango show, and or more specifically with my community, is it's always about listening to other opinions and other ideas. And, we do that a lot in Discord. Guys, we have some more super chats and some more comments we're going to get through. We have about 15 minutes left in the show tonight. But just a quick reminder, if you guys want to subscribe to Omer's channel, Real Take Wrestling, that right there, plus the link in the description. So make sure you guys check him out. We got a super chat from Adam78 for $5. He says, if Jay White signs with WWE, I would rather see Styles versus White at WrestleMania 39. And this is interesting because, I feel like if Jay White's going to come into WWE, you already have the club. You have Finn Balor. You have Cody. You have all of these guys that were part of the Bullet Club. I don't know if I want to see a feud with them too. I think there's more money to be made with them. And Triple H, I think, understands this as well. I think Triple H knows that he can make a lot of money off of the OC or the club or whatever he wants to call them. And also keep in mind, Mia Yim is kind of part of it too. I feel like there is so much you can do, especially when you look at the Bloodline and maybe Naomi coming back to the Bloodline. I just think there's so much more money involved in those types of stories versus Styles and Jay White.
And the thing that we haven't even mentioned is Finn Balor of the Judgment Day right now. Like, there's a lot that could happen here. I mean, to answer the question, or to respond to the statement, I should say, Jay White signing with WWE, great. Him going into a storyline with Styles at Mania, fantastic. Give it to me. But it's one of those things where unless you have him going out there and wrestling Omos at WrestleMania, it's like you can't go wrong here with Jay White. Like, he's just great.
And by the way, too, it almost looks like Omos and Hurt Business could be working on something, which I think we're going to see very, very soon. MVP's kind of working on something. Again, I hate to be super positive towards WWE these days, but holy shit, dude, all these little small things happening. It kind of, it's like this big puzzle, and WWE every week is giving you the pieces, and they're saying, just put it together. Just fucking put it together at this point.
It's honestly like Triple H is slowly like fixing some of the broken things. Like the Hurt Business I'm like, how many times did these people break up just to get back together again? But like now I'm like, all right, I'm going along for the ride because this is the way it should be. Like the MVP and Bobby Lashley and all these guys and Omos should all be together in one group. And because that's it, they were just at their best when they were together.
Yeah. Adam, thank you for the super chat. Thank you everybody who's dropped some super chats. We'll be getting off in about 14 minutes. So if you guys have any last minute super chats you want to get in, go ahead and do so. Omer, it kind of got me thinking because you said something earlier in the stream about big moment, right? And big visuals, which is what WWE lives for. At the end of the day, when you look at it from a perspective of even just weekly television, what happened on SmackDown that people were talking about? Uncle Howdy, Bray Wyatt, the jump scare. We're seeing WWE in the visual of Sami Zayn attacking Roman Reigns. We're seeing Charlotte Flair beat Sonya Deville. Pretty good match too, right? We're seeing a fatal four-way match for, Elimination Chamber. We saw the Brawling Brutes go after Viking Raiders after they beat, we saw the Banger Bros go after the Viking Raiders after they beat the Brawling Brutes. WWE is all about these moments and all about these things, like from a storyline perspective, but also from like a social media perspective. And I don't think people understand truly how much WWE is doing it. We saw it tonight too with Ricochet and Strowman beating Imperium. WWE is kind of putting themselves in a situation where they're really just trying to get those highlights from these matches and these storylines and get it out there online as much as possible. And it kind of got me thinking, because of the Bloodline, because of Cody Rhodes, because of The Rock, because of Sami Zayn, because of all of these different things that are going on in WWE, now there's the talk of Vince McMahon being back in the company. And I want to get your take on this because I feel like there's been so many good things. Even when WWE is not perfect, it's a night and day difference between Triple H's version of WWE and of course, Vince McMahon's version. If Vince McMahon returns and takes over creative, what the hell do you think happens to all of this good storytelling and these pushes that we're seeing, all of these great moments, these great visualizations that we're getting, like these things that are happening that are so good? What do you think happens? Like, what is going to be the next thing that happens to WWE? Because I have a very bold prediction, and I'm very afraid of what people are going to say when I say this.
Dude, I'm very afraid to hear what your bold prediction is. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, here's what I'll say.
Yeah.
And I will save everyone my extended version of my Vince McMahon talk. I'll give you guys the abridged version. It would be terrible on so many levels. I have not enjoyed WWE like I am right now, like I have been right now in a long time.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, whatever you want to say about Vince McMahon, whatever you want to say about, like, like maybe things did work over the last few years, maybe they didn't, whatever. One thing I know for sure is, like, everyone's time passes them by.
Yeah.
Vince's time, unfortunately for the few Vince McMahon fans out there, it has passed. It's a new era, brother. Like we're in a new era. We're enjoying it. Like, let's not mess up a good thing while we got it. And again, part of the reason, like you mentioned it real quick, part of the reason why like we've talked about like Triple H's booking has been so good, or like in comparison to Vince McMahon, is because we're comparing it to Vince McMahon. The bar was so low for a long time on week to week WWE TV that Triple H just making sense of a few things was like, this is like amazing, like night and day, like you said. That being said, I mean, I think like morale within the company kind of goes down. I think creative direction is going to be, I think, depending on how involved Triple H is, just definitely more crap than it is now. And yeah, you're going to see people like me who have been enjoying watching Raw, enjoying watching SmackDown, kind of probably go back to DVRing and skipping through all the rematches. But yeah, we'll see.
You want to hear my bold prediction?
I'm scared. Go for it.
I think this is going to happen. Somebody fucking clip this shit right now. Not even joking. I might be wrong, but I think when WWE sells, I think when WWE sells the company, I think Triple H is gone. Regardless of what happens with Vince. Regardless if Vince stays, I think Triple H is waiting for the company to sell. I think he's waiting to cash out. I think he's gone. I for some reason, I have this very odd feeling that Triple H will be done with wrestling. And no, I don't think he's going to start up another company. I don't think he would go to AEW.
Well, you don't think that HHH is going to be a company name in like 4 years?
No. I think if the company sells, I think he's gone. Unless the company who brings him in, like if they choose to bring him in, I mean, unless they pay him like crazy amount of money to be CEO, head of creative, and do all of these things. And I just don't see a company. Maybe the only company I can see doing that just based on previous experience would be Endeavor, because Endeavor owns UFC. They kept Dana White. So I feel like maybe perhaps Triple H would potentially stay in that case. But I think after seeing Stephanie McMahon leave, I don't think Nick Khan is lying when he says that Vince McMahon has no problem stepping aside. I don't think this is a Vince McMahon issue. I think Triple H has kind of been in a situation where he's going to get out. And I don't know why I feel this way, and it sucks that I feel this way, because I really admire how much he has improved the product. And to be honest, I see a lot of people, they're like, oh, well, you're biased towards WWE. And me and you have talked about this before. It's like, dude, I've literally criticized the living shit out of WWE and AEW, and I praised them for years. But the one thing I've noticed, my personal interest in WWE has never been higher. And up until 7 weeks ago, my interest in AEW plummeted. For the last 7 weeks, AEW has really improved because you see storytelling. But this is where things get really interesting for me as a wrestling fan, a viewer, podcaster, content creator. Tony Khan loves wrestling. I think he's in it for the long haul. And I think Triple H loves wrestling. But I think there is something that is happening backstage or whatever within that family that would cause him to leave. And I think the sale would be, ideally, if you're Vince McMahon, what you should do, which you don't need a freaking 28-year-old YouTuber to tell you this, but if you own a multi-billion-dollar wrestling company and you have a family, you know, I'd probably pass it down to my family so they can benefit from it for years and years to come. WWE was always looked at as a McMahon business, right? I think once the McMahon portion of that is gone, I think Triple H is gone too. And I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if I could even watch WWE without Triple H's booking, because I really began to care about the small things and those moments and the storytelling and the matches. And again, it's not perfect, but it's like, I don't remember being this hooked into wrestling as an adult, honestly.
Yeah. I've always been like 50-50 on whether Triple stays or goes with the sale. I think like you said, it depends on who they sell to. And the one thing that I think people are also forgetting is like, it is still possible that, like what you said is true. Triple H, once the sale happens, kind of steps aside of his own volition, considering this is also a guy who like has had severe health issues. Like, let's not forget that. Remember that interview he had with Stephen A. Smith, where he documented that like the dude has a device in his chest right now, like that could restart his heart. So given that, I mean, it's possible that he just steps away anyway.
Yeah.
And the other possibility that we haven't even talked about is like, and a third party or a third person, we don't know who that could be, right? Stepping in and taking control of creative, whether it be, Bruce Pritchard, or whether it be, someone else. Like you never know in pro wrestling, right? But I will say this: if there's one guy I trust, it's Triple H as far as booking WWE right now. I don't have much faith in anyone else.
I hear you, brother. We got another super chat from Albert Pons. He says, with the Fatal 4-Way, if it's just a one-match deal, have Riddick Moss or Rey Mysterio win. Neither Carrion Kross or Santos Escobar need to lose if it's not leading to a feud for the title. I'm glad that this was brought up in a super chat because it was announced next week. We're going to get Moss versus Mysterio versus Kross and Santos Escobar in a Fatal 4-Way match for the number one contendership for the Intercontinental Championship. Now, I am in the belief that whoever wins this match is just going to be fed to Gunther, which is really interesting to me. I actually love the idea of this match being won by Riddick Moss. I think he could really benefit from having a big time match, and I think he's okay to lose the match. It's not a big deal if he loses. Rey Mysterio and Karrion Kross have a feud going on, so you could do some shenanigans there to justify with them losing, which I'm sure they'll get their singles match on a pay-per-view. And then Santos Escobar, I would love to see him as Intercontinental Champion at some point. I don't want to see him fed to Gunther just to lose to Gunther. I'd rather see him just continue his winning ways, if that makes sense. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And do I sound stupid for saying Riddick Moss should beat three of these great wrestlers?
Look, first of all, no, you shouldn't. No one sounds stupid when they're talking about pro wrestling unless you sound stupid. But anyway,
that makes no sense.
Yeah, you're right. Anyway, but no, here's what I'll say: 3/4 of this match is going to be great. I'll let you guys decipher who that 1/4 that isn't so great is going to be.
Riddick Moss. You're saying Riddick Moss without saying Riddick Moss.
No, I'm saying Karrion Kross, man. Like,
really?
The presentation of Karrion Kross in NXT was immaculate, amazing.
It's even better now.
I'm sure you feel that way. I am like, it is. He has been exposed, man. I don't know. Anyway, but like, here's what I'll say. I think if we're talking about the best option for a guy to have a match with Gunther, I think it's either Rey Mysterio or Santos Escobar. I don't think that there's like again, Riddick Moss, fine. He's having fun out there. We love him. Karrion Kross, God bless him. But I think like those are the two where I could see, like, the Rey Mysterio one is interesting because you could do a thing where Rey Mysterio like kind of gets distracted by Dominic and ends up like, like that really like catapults their feud into like,
yes,
all right, that's it. Rey Mysterio's like, I've had enough. I need you gone from my life, and we need to settle this once and for all. So I think that's like a likely scenario, but yeah. I wouldn't mind Santos Escobar versus Gunther. That's a fun match.
I just don't want him to lose. I just don't want him to lose, man.
Well, someone has to lose and go. People have to lose in pro wrestling.
But you're right. But that's such a good match to have where it's like, have him lose when it means something. This is just a qualifying match for number one contender. And I feel like, Riddick Moss has actually been pretty impressive. He's not due for a big push right now. He's just kind of floating around, and he's been used a lot more under Triple H. I think that just needs to be a showcase match. Literally, him and Gunther could have a great match and showcase what he can do. The crowd will probably get behind him because they've done that in previous scenarios. I don't know. This is very interesting, but this is one of those things too where I just kind of want to point it out. I do love the fact, if there's one change I've noticed, and they've done it a lot with the women and even the men too, and I like when AEW does it too. I like multi-man matches. That's not something a lot of people care about, but for me, I just like the idea that like Triple H is definitely showcasing people in these multi-man matches. And one thing that I've noticed too is like it's giving people an opportunity just to show what they can do. And I know you're not for Karrion Kross. I really do like Karrion Kross. I think there's a unique style to him. I think it's all about chemistry and who he works with that's going to get the best out of him. But I'm more character driven anyways. I can care less if you can do flips and shit. I like character development and storytelling. One thing that I like about this match right here, I don't want people to sleep on it because I think there's going to be something very interesting that happens in this match, whether it's some sort of shenanigans or whatever. There's going to be something that happens to justify why one person wins, right? Riddick Moss can win, and it could be because you got to remember Carrion Kross and Scarlett had an issue with Riddick Moss and with Emma, right? So you can always have Emma and Scarlett get involved. You can have Rey Mysterio, Dominic Mysterio, like you mentioned. You could always have Legado del Fantasma get involved. So I do like the fact that this could actually not just benefit the 4 people that are in the match, but whoever is associated with these 4. And I like that it's being done by WWE. We got a couple more super chats I want to get through before we end the show because we're at midnight. Steven Escalante says 4 isn't enough. Sue this man until we've reached Ty Dillinger's favorite number. I'm not sure what this is in reference to, but Steven, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. He actually dropped another super chat, have Ray win and Dom cost him the match. So kind of like what you were saying. And I like that idea. By the way, just quick notice. One thing that I love about WWE right now, and I'm super curious to hear your thoughts on this NASCAR thing. WWE using things happening, because remember, Dom and Ray aren't on the same brand, yet WWE has used social media and digital exclusives, and now the NASCAR event, which is paid promo, it's crossover stuff. They're using it to further the storyline. What are your thoughts on WWE doing stuff like this? Because I actually feel like it's benefiting both Rey Mysterio and Dom Mysterio. And it's actually another storyline that I actually really, really love. And it's not like they're wrestling every single week either, you know?
The like little like vignettes, the little like things that they've been shooting with Dominic Mysterio breaking into Rey Mysterio's house and him getting arrested, and like now this NASCAR thing, it's all been great. Like I love it. I love that Dominic Mysterio every single week is just starting to look more and more like WCW Eddie Guerrero too. Like I'm just like, he's growing out the hair, he's got the mullet. I'm like, if they're not gonna have him come out to like Gangsta Lane at WrestleMania, like against Ray, and just because I like that's the one thing I loved about Eddie Guerrero, like when we changed his song, it was like his Titantron was just him beating the ever living crap out of Rey Mysterio. That's all it was, even when he wasn't in with a feud with that guy. So like that
he's got to come out. He's got to come out with a lowrider, right?
Yes, I mean, yeah, like bare minimum, he's got to come out to Gangsta Lane, because I'm just like, it's all there. Like he's playing like he's hard now. He's acting like he's hard because he went to jail. Like it's just great. Like just do it for the fan and me. Come on, Triple H, do it.
I feel like if Dom Mysterio like lowrider, like he comes out and he just makes a mockery of everything with Rey Mysterio, and obviously pays homage to Eddie Guerrero,
his real dad in canon, in kayfabe canon.
Dude, and the best part is it's all like, if you asked me when he debuted if he would be this good, I liked him. Don't get me wrong. I didn't shit on Dom Mysterio when he first started because obviously he was so new to the business, but to see how far he's come, he's literally associated with some of the best talent in WWE. He's learning from a lot of people. But dude, this is why characters freaking matter. This kid is pulling it off. And, you know, the WrestleMania moment, I'm just saying, if he comes out with a lowrider, like this guy, I think that's like my WrestleMania moment that I'm going to cry for, because it's just so beautiful. It's just so beautiful to see, bro. He literally gets out of the NASCAR thing and he throws his helmet at Rey Mysterio. And I don't know, bro.
Great.
It's so silly. It's so freaking stupid, but I love it.
Mommy, bail me out, mommy. Like I'm just like that. Like it just plays like repeat in my head. I'm just like, it's the funniest thing. I love it.
And people are like, oh, I love when I see people. They're like, oh, with Dom Mysterio, like, yeah, he's constantly hiding behind Rhea Ripley. He's a coward. And I'm like, this is why character work matters, because it's so perfect. And Rhea Ripley is such a badass. It works. And if anything, too, you know, she's going to go up against Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. How cool, you know, dude, I forgot who I was talking to about this, but imagine you kind of pull a Chyna and Eddie Guerrero thing. You have the roses, right? Dom Mysterio comes out with the bouquet of roses with Rhea Ripley, and just, I don't know, man. There's just something there.
Just turn him into like 2000 Eddie Guerrero, and it'll be fine. Like
it
things
works.
will turn out fine.
It works. We did get one more super chat, so we'll answer this. Albert Ponce said, Kross is not connected with the crowd, sadly. Omer, how important is crowd reaction to a wrestler who is relatively new to the main roster?
Everything. It's absolutely everything. Like
how long, not to cut you off, how long do you experiment with it until you give up?
Give up in what sense? Like on
You
him
pull him.
entirely?
Yeah.
I mean, try. You have to try a few like things. I think like with WWE with Carrion Kross, they've tried 2 things. One of them I'm not going to count because I don't know what that was. The gladiator thing that they did with him. But like I think you give him another shot at least before you like totally pull the plug on this. And you got to change it up though. I just don't think he's connecting with the crowd. I know personally he's not connecting with me. I like understand what they're going for, and that's the weird part. I kind of get what they're going for. It just I'm still like, it's just kind of shit.
What
But
would you change then? Honestly, like what would be the thing that you change?
I just wouldn't have him. I don't like it's one of those weird things where I don't know exactly what I would change, but I know that like this isn't working for me. But I would at least get rid of the white and black like entrance. It's just not cool. It's not like it doesn't fit him. Just have him be what he was in NXT. Like honestly, what he was doing in NXT and when he wasn't doing the whole Sands of Time gimmick, like where Scarlett Bordeaux's like doing like that, like just have him come out, be a monster, beat people up, just be better and tougher than everyone. It's a very simple thing. Like you don't have to. I think they're overplaying it like a little bit, which I get because you have to kind of do that with the main roster. But I don't know. Like for me, it would work better if he was just a little more simple as a character. Because even all this like stuff, I don't know what they're going for.
Okay. That's I like that actually. I like that you said that because really what it really comes down to is he just needs to be dialed back a little bit.
Yeah.
It's sometimes to you at least, it appears that he's becoming a little over gimmicky. Me personally, I do like a little bit of that stuff. But I just wanted to, just kind of want to mention like when you say it is a little over the top, it's a little too much. I could understand that because before they weren't doing stuff with like the tarot cards and then they started doing something with that. And that was something to me where I was like, okay, now you're going a little bit too much. Like what you're saying, his overall in general, he's a little over the top with the character. But to me, that moment was like, okay, now you're really going over the top. Like, what does this have to do with Carrion Kross?
Exactly.
Maybe one suggestion that I would have, because he does have a little bit of a background in training and stuff like that. I wouldn't mind seeing him take a little bit more of an MMA approach, which could be really beneficial too. Because for some reason, wrestling fans do love that. We did get one more super chat, and then we'll call it a night. Ray Rodrigo says, love your show and wish you the best going forward. You think a lot like me when it comes to wrestling, also like Omer, and I got him too. So this was fun, actually. It's a nice little change to the channel, bringing somebody on board. And I know me and you have talked about doing a show. So we'll definitely have to keep talking more details. We're obviously not in a rush, but if you guys think we should do a show, just like Ray Rodrigo, he seems to like Omer. He's not too bad. I mean, he's all right. I think he'll be just fine.
I'm terrible, everyone. Just terrible.
Dude,
God awful.
We keep getting more super chats as we're trying to get off the air. Tantalizing Tony's Wrestling Show says, love the show, bro.
I love that name, by the way. Tantalizing Tony's Wrestling.
What's funny is my name is actually Tony. Well, it's Anthony. So
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know this. Ango is a fusion of my first and last name. Now, it's weird because people call me Tony. Like, my friends call me Tony. But, like, if I go, like, when I used to work in the corporate life, it was like, oh, just call me Anthony. When I went to school, call me Anthony. Social media, call me Anthony. But it's so funny because I actually prefer being called Tony. And then I seen Tantalizing Tony. And I came across his content like a month or two ago. And I just started watching a little bit here and there. And, whenever I have time. And I was like, damn, dude, like, Ango is pretty cool. But Tantalizing Tony is pretty sick. And I'd never really thought to use Tony because I always used Ango. So just some fun stuff,
You missed the boat on that one, man. You can never take it back now. Now you're Ango for life.
Exactly. And that's how we're going to end the show, guys. This is Omer Q from Real Take Wrestling. Again, I'm going to throw that banner up on the screen. Make sure you guys subscribe to his channel. If you guys want to see more of him on this channel, let me know in the comment section. We're definitely going to figure some things out. Maybe even start another channel for our own show. We'll play with ideas. We're definitely thinking about some stuff. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree, but we're not screaming at each other. It's fun. I think it's really cool to bring in another opinion, another voice on the channel as well.
Just wait till we talk about AEW, guys, because that's where the real drama is gonna happen. Because I know how you feel about some of the stuff they do, and I know how I feel about some of the stuff they do, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun talk, guys.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't want to give up on AEW, but I've been pretty happy with their show lately. But the problem is, it's been 7 weeks of good shows, and I'm kind of scared. Okay, at some point that streak is going to come to an end because that's usually how it works with that company. And I just don't want to be negative. I like being positive. So we'll see. Maybe we won't do that show. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you to everybody for the super chats. Thank you for sticking with us. It's a Friday night. Now it's Saturday morning. We appreciate you guys. Omer, any last words you have for the viewers?
Yes. Love those who are close. Hug those who are close. Love those who are far. Tell someone you love them today. Be positive. Have a great weekend. And yeah, subscribe too to everything.
Sweet. Thank you for being on the show, guys. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.